Jane or Gina, have you seen Sheila? That's the only one I don't have as far as school committee.
I can search her name at the top. Let's see. I do
Yeah,
not see Sheila yet.
Okay, thank you.
I also don't know who's representing Hopkinton. I haven't recognized any names. So we might want to ask who's on representing Hopkinton for their Board of Canvassers.
Oh,
Only because they don't have electricity issues, do they still?
Gina, I wanted to tell you that you were muted because I couldn't hear you. And
I am muted.
and I was muted and I couldn't unmute, but I'm not sure about the answer to the power question. I was going to text a few folks. And also if we need to get more Hopkinton people, let me know.
Sure.
Do we think we have enough to meet
We have a lot. We don't
from-
know yet, but I'm trying to find out who from if we have the Board of Canvassers from Hopkinton here, if you could raise your hand by going to the bottom of the screen, and you'll either see a gestures button or a more button to click raise hand. Now Amy knows. Ask me, Amy.
Hi, Gina. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I did just speak to Lisa in the clerk's office. You might want to reach out to her. Just give her a buzz and see if you can figure out exactly who is handling that for her. I don't believe it was her in the clerk's office, but there is someone else that's handling it.
Okay. Donna, do you know how to get in touch with her?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Oh, hold on. There's Lisa Rosso. So I see lots of hands, but right now it's keep your hand as if you are the Board of Canvassers from Hopkinton. Okay, lower hand. Just shake your head no, and I'll lower your hand for you if that's not who you are.
Hi, this is Frank Landolfi from Hopkinton.
Hi, Frank. Are you from the Board of Canvassers? No.
I am not on the Board of Canvassers, no,
Okay.
just a resident.
Wait, I'm going to rename you so I know. You said Hopkinton,
Okay.
correct?
Yes.
So those of you that have logged in on the screen, it gives you the directions on how to rename yourself. So the Board of Canvassers can take the quorum and count the number per town. If you need assistance, we can help you if you have a phone, if you don't know how to do it. Oh. Hi, oh. Hi, Ron. Are you from the Board of Canvassers?
No,
Are you from one of the towns?
Charlestown.
Charlestown. I can rename you.
And my wife Maureen is joining me, but I don't see her name on the list because we're using one computer.
Okay, so Charlestown. So Ron, if you're both, I'm gonna, Ronald, what's her name, Ronald?
Her name?
Yes.
My wife's name, Maureen.
Maureen.
Do you want me to ask the people with the phones I could work through those?
Thank you, Jane. Yeah, I'll do the same
How do
thing.
I just ask them to unmute, right?
Yeah, just click ask to unmute and we can go
Okay.
through it. So just make sure when you rename yourselves that the town is listed first.
Hi, my name is Joe Moreau, and I am from the town of Hopkinton.
Thank you. I'm gonna rename you. So again, your name is John, did you say?
My name is, no, my first name is Joe, and the
Joe.
last name is Moreau.
Moreau?
You are correct.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's try another one.
If you are using a phone, at the bottom of your phone, there should be a More tab to click it and hit Rename. And then you would type in the town and your first and last name. Those of you on a phone.
You're all set, Mr. Moreau. I did it for you.
Thank you. I appreciate the help.
You're welcome.
Gina,
Yes, Donna.
no one is on for the Board of Canvassers for Hopkinton. They are not, the Board of Canvassers aren't really sure how to do this virtually. So I told Lisa we will send her the list and they will verify, but it looks like we should have more than enough. They verified everybody that we sent already.
Okay,
So we should have more than enough to meet the quorum.
okay. Thank you, Donna.
Okay?
Hello, so if you have the phone number 539-2294, if you want to just tell me the town you're from and your name, I can type it in for you.
I'm Mary Carlson. Do you hear me?
Yes, Mary Carlson. Yep.
And what do you need?
Just the town.
Hopkinton.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, for phone number 633-4004, if you could just give me your town and your name, I can type it in for you.
The town is Hopkinton,
Okay.
and the name is Sylvia Thompson.
Hi, Sylvia. Thank you so much. You're all-
Hello. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we have another phone, 787-3354. Could you just tell me your name?
Sure. Hi, it's Deborah Zonfrilli.
Oh, hi, Deb. It's Jane.
Hi.
Okay, I'm gonna
Hi,
rename you. And what town, Deb?
Hopkinton.
Thank you.
I'm on my phone because I don't have any internet, so.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for
Thanks
coming
for
on.
coming,
You're
Deb.
Okay.
phones that are still unaccounted for. But if you do have a phone number, we have 458-0018 and 539-2160. If you could either rename yourself or unmute, I could help you. Here we go. Okay, so 458, whoops, 0018.
It's Hopkinton, Barbara Capalvo.
Hi, Barbara.
I'm on
Okay,
hi.
I got
I'm
you.
also on the computer. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
on the computer, so I
Okay,
just wasn't
You're
sure
on
which one to
the
work. Thanks.
okay, thank you. All right. One other phone number,
Anybody hear me?
yes, I can hear you. Is this
I can hear you.
539-2160?
Yes, it is.
Okay, can you just tell me the town and the name?
Hopkinton,
Yeah,
and it's Georgia Ewer.
very good. Hi, Georgia, you're all set. Thank you.
So it looks like I've already counted more than 25 from Hopkinton that are on. Sarah, Amy, Dale, let me know when you have 25 that you've confirmed from the sheets we sent out. So if you've just logged in, if you could please rename yourself by following the directions on the slide. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a participants icon where you would click more. And then it'll say rename. And then you would type in the town that you're a registered voter in, and then your first and last name. If you are with someone else that's registered in your house, you can put both names on the participant list. And if you have the phone, it would be the same at the bottom of the phone. There should be a more button to rename yourself. If you need help, please raise your hand, which is located at the bottom of the screen under gestures or more, and we'll be happy to help you.
I'll help Ann.
Okay, thank you. Dale, do you have a question? We're ready.
You're not muted now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, we're just chiming in to say we have a quorum.
Thank you, Charlestown.
You're welcome.
Hi, Ann Bettinger. If you can, oh, here you are. Hi, what town are you from? I can rename you.
Charlestown.
Thank you.
So click on here. Thank you.
You're all set.
Okay, Sarah, when you're ready, if you let us know.
Gina, if we could get the count as well, that would be great. Then we'll know how many are Hopkinton.
And I will do that right now. I have 45 I see from Hopkinton.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of breaking down polls right now and finishing up our night here. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Sarah, are you okay for us to move forward? We have quorum from Charlestown, Hopkinton. Do you want me to get you a count?
No, let me just confirm, just a second.
Perfect, thank you, Sarah.
Excuse me, could I get Charlestown's count too, please?
We have 26 here, so we're good to go in Richmond. Sorry about that, multitasking.
Let's see, Dale. Dale, do you have the count for Charlestown?
Gina, I think that's Amy with her hand up.
Hi, Gina. Thank you. Yes, we have 36 from Charlestown.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So that means we have a quorum from each town. Mr. Beck, I think we're all ready.
Very good. Good evening, residents of all three towns. Welcome to the Charahoe Annual Budget Hearing on March 2nd of 2021. Before we call the meeting to order, I just have a personal note that I would like, as a resident and a parent, to thank all those who helped open Charahoe Regional School District, superintendent and all her staff, and I mean all the staff, the school committee, and also very much thanks to the teachers. It's been a very, very long, daunting affair, but Charahoe has succeeded. With that comment, I will call the meeting to order. And I'd like everyone to stand for salute to the flag and then a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a count from the three towns that we have a quorum for all three communities. So we are ready to begin the meeting. First of all, we would just like to go over a few of the rules that will govern the meeting. The state rules indicate that if you would like to speak, please raise your hand, mention the town that you're from and your name. The time allotment that we'd like to continue to keep to is about 5 minutes per comment. If for some reason it runs over 5 minutes, if there's someone else that would like to speak, we'll move you to the end of the line and you may further comment. As far as the public hearing for the school committee, this is a public hearing. There is no voting that will take place at this meeting. There will be a vote by the school committee on, I believe, March 9th to adopt this budget. This particular hearing is for comments only. And as I said, there will be no vote. An all-day referendum will take place on April 6th in each of the communities to adopt the budget or to not adopt the budget. And so to continue on the general business of this meeting, I would accept a motion to waive the minutes from the last meeting on March 20th, 2020 rather, and also to waive the reading of the warrant. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Those will be waived. And we will continue with the rest of the meeting. First of all, I'd like to recognize the chair of the school committee, Linda Lyle, and she will introduce the members of the school committee and administrators in attendance at this hearing. Linda, if you can take over that.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. As Mr. Beck said, I'm Linda Lyle. I'm the chairperson of the Charahoe School Committee, and it's my honor to introduce my fellow colleagues from Hopkinton, George Abbott, Catherine Giusti, Lisa Macaruso, and David Stahl. From Richmond, Dr. Ryan Callahan, William Day, and Gary Ligori. And from Charlestown, Donna Chambers, Craig Luzon, and Linda McAllister. Also, I'd like to introduce our administrators in attendance, Superintendent Gina Picard, Assistant Superintendent Jane Daly, and Director of Administration and Finance, Ned Draper. Now I will present the budget. The school committee approved fiscal year 2021 budget in the amount of $54,704,347 member towns contributions with debt service, an increase of 2.23%. Impact to each town as follows: Charlestown, an increase of 1.41%, Richmond, an increase of 2.66%, and Hopkinton, an increase of 2.33%. I now turn the floor back over to Mr. Beck.
Thank you, Linda. We will now take a public comment on the budget, and I believe Ned Draper will be answering some of those comments along with Linda. So we will open the lines. The procedure would be to raise your hand, and you will be recognized and make your comments.
Mr. Beck, the first hand we have is Sylvia Thompson from Hopkinton.
Sylvia, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I would like to thank the school committee members for their service. And you often hear it's a thankless job, but that's not why we do what we do. And you know that. I know this year's been difficult, or this past year, it's been an upside down year. The administration, the teachers, the support staff, the bus drivers, the guards, they're all, and you can see it, taking great care to make sure that our students are safe. So that it is greatly appreciated. In reviewing the budget and audits, the proposed budget, and I'm looking at the general fund spending at the top of the summary page. That general fund spending is almost 3 million increase. It's 2.932 million. The last time Chair Ho had a voter approved budget that was 3 million. We ended the year with 2.937 million. And as a matter of fact, 12 of the last 17 years shows the surplus exceeded in those 12 budgets, the surplus exceeded the increase in the budget. And that's been known and referred to as overtaxation. So over the years, when Chair Ho has asked for an increase, and I'm looking at the increases, for instance, one year, the increase was only $5,000 and the surplus was 3 million. Another year was a $500,000 increase and the surplus was 2.7 million. One year it was $1 million increase and we ended up with 3.1 million. So the fund balance over the years, and I'm going back just 4 or 5 years, has grown from 5.4 million to 6.8 million to 7.156 to the 2020 audited fund balance of 9.139. And I know every year the school committee looks at the fund balance, looks what's unassigned, keeps some for the school, and returns some to the towns to lower the budget. But it's clear from the trends that the fund balance just keeps growing and growing and growing. And now there's a request for increased spending in the general fund budget by almost 3 million. And I'd like to point out in that summary page, you look back and you see the proposed budget, but you also see the half-year spending of the current budget. And just in case anybody looks at that number, don't just look at that half-year number and think that you just multiply it by 2 and that's the next year's budget, because that's not, the half-year date on some of these items is not an accurate measure of the total year expenses. And I'm sure people in finance know that. And I'll point out the employee benefit package, for instance, the employee benefit line. In 2020, at the half year, that was just over 7 million. Now, they didn't multiply it by 2 and come up with 14 million. They looked at the budget, they looked at reality, and it was 13.119 million. So it wasn't just an automatic doubling. But even though that budget was 13.119 million for employee benefit line in 2020, they still ended up with, or you guys still ended up with, 1.15 million was left over, and that's just from one item. And that was part of the 2020 surplus of over 4 million. And I want to also mention the enrollment numbers. As you know, from 2001 to 2019, we lost 754 students, and that's Tri-Town district students. So we lost students every year. In the first year that we ever saw an increase was in 2020, and this is just in our students within the district. We had 2 more students overall. Now, there's fluctuations between the town, but the bottom number, the whole number, it was only 2 more. You have to go back 40 years to see the enrollment numbers that we have now. We're down to 1970 student levels. So in the future and going forward, if anyone sees an increase in documents or in the newspaper that there's an increase in students, it's the residents, it should be the school committee, but it should be the residents as well. They need to know if there's any increase, is it from in district or is it from out of district? Because we are having increases from out of district, as we all know. But in district, they're not increasing. But yet the budget, the general fund expense is going to go up by almost 3 million. Are we being forced to absorb an increase in taxes to our Tri-Town residents when we're below 1970 levels?
Hey, Sylvia,
And-
do you
and
have a specific point that you would like to make so that we can get an answer?
No, there's really no answer. The bottom line is I'm looking for the school committee member to look to your audits and look to trends and look to, for instance, the general fund budget, which shows an increase of $3 million. That's huge. And we can't afford it. And I think it's unnecessary, and I think it's over taxation. It's an overcompensation, and I do not. If you look at the employee benefits package, and that's what I'm asking the school committee to do, to go back to your general fund budget, look at the compensation, look at the employee benefits package specifically. When I attended the Hope Valley School, and back then it was grades 1 through 6, whether we had a class in the basement or the second floor, it was the teachers that made a difference. We didn't care the surroundings or where we were. It's always been the teachers who make a difference. So I am not in favor of a new, shiny, large, single elementary school. Please don't take our neighborhood schools away. Please don't let the little kids be bused over to the campus with a 45 or 50-minute run. Thank you.
Sylvia, thank you for your comments. We're getting a little off track here. We have some other people that would like to speak.
So, Mr. Beck, just a reminder, everyone, if you would like to speak, at the bottom of your screen, you should see a reactions button where you would click on that, or a more button where you would click on that and hit reactions or raise hand. Our next person is from Hopkinton, Scott Hurst.
Mr. Hurst, you do have the floor.
Thank you, Scott Hurst, Churro 71, 50 years this year. I do have several questions. I would ask the superintendent what was done with all the questions that we submitted to you when we registered.
We have all the questions as you requested to be responded to tonight. Would you like us to go through them?
Yes, please. And I just keep my mic unmuted, and then you can mute it or tell me when you want me to mute it. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Draper?
Sure. There were, I believe, 5 questions included in that request. I'll start with the first. The question was, why should someone vote for the proposed budget with no outside management study?
I would like to point out that that was directly for the school committee members because they're the elected officials, and all the others, anybody could answer, because that's essentially a political issue, pretty much. Thank you.
Okay. Should I start then on the maintenance of effort question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So maintenance of effort, we did an analysis of that. We did not use the ride calculations because right now that's unclear how that's going to be administered. Fiscal year 20, as everybody's aware, was an upside down year as it pertains to numbers. But going quickly, I believe the question was for Hopkinton, the approximate tax value based on a contribution of $14,971,000 spread across 1,188 students works out to $12,602 per student. That compares to last year's spending, which was $14,711,000 for 1,153 students. That works out to a per student value of $12,759. So on a per student basis for the town of Hopkinton, it works out to about $150, $160 less per student in the current year's request than last year's. Is that
that's, I have some other questions. I thought they were just
Sure.
relevant.
Yep. How much of was the value of discarded, distributed, and sold school district property? The discarded sold item value for the yard sale is $380. I have a detailed list of that. The distributed value is our capital spending across the district. That's actually a pretty long spreadsheet. That's something I could probably send to Brian that he could share in turn with the council. The overall value of those distributed funds was $168,000 in the technology area, 37,000 in the long-term planning. CTC categorical, which has a variety of property items in it, was 278,000. Capital spending last year was 1,087,000, and that's spread amongst a variety of the schools. The equipment was 400,000. And we had some equipment in the athletic area that was just over 4,000 for a grand total of 1,983,000. That would be spread amongst different locations. Again, I can provide detail with that. How much financial commitment Hopkins Elementary Schools have been getting for maintenance? For the 2 schools, that number totals up to $594,620. That includes the salaries of maintenance and custodial personnel, along with other investments in the physical plant. As with the prior request, that's something we could send some of the detail to Brian for distribution. Number 6, the question was, what has been done to keep the growth of staffing in check? What I did on the first question, though I know that's directed to the school committee, I can define some of the budget process. What happens in our budget process is each of the directors and department heads provides to the superintendent their requests or their reductions as directed. That list is then reviewed by myself and the superintendent. After this initial review, the superintendent approves or denies operating plans and assigns reductions as appropriate. Staffing levels are specifically reviewed both upon initial delivery and then again in a sit down with myself and the superintendent. An overall staffing goal is set by the superintendent and applied to the budget overall. So as an example, I believe this year's budget, the staffing is 2.5 or 2.6 full-time equivalents less than
3.5 this year, Ned.
3.5, I'm sorry. It's 3.5 staff members less in fiscal year 22 than it is in fiscal year 21.
I thank you. I know other people want to talk, but I would like to have the school committee respond to my first question. Why should people vote for this budget without an outside management study in lieu of the fact that the school committee is presently supporting one elementary school in the school district? Thank you. And that's what's directed to school committee members who were elected by the respective voters of the 3 towns. And that's my last question. Thank you, Mr. Draper.
Welcome.
This is Linda Lyle. My understanding, this is information that Mr. Draper had given to me, that we have an external financial audit is conducted yearly. I'm sorry, annually, yeah, yearly. The previous 15 years is, there's a link to it on our site. So if anyone's interested in looking at it, but an audit is done once every year. Thank you.
Mr. Beck, I believe Ms. Capalbo from Hopkinton had her hand up. Barbara, did you still want to talk? Okay.
Yes, if I may. I wanted to, first of all, thank the teachers and the administration. This has been a very difficult year, and I truly do appreciate all of your work. I know that you don't know what your budget's doing any more than the rest of us know what our budgets are doing after the year of 2020. I do want to make a very specific request, a budget cut, quite respectfully. I would still like you to reduce your fund balance to 2.0% from 2.25%, especially since just a day or so ago, the federal government approved the 1.9 trillion House bill, and I know that'll be working forward on the Senate, but of that 1.3 billion goes to the schools for PPE, for all the kinds of things that you need. And I certainly am not knowledgeable about that, but I'm sure you are. But since they are already putting 1.3 billion into the schools across the country, and I'm sure you'll get your percentage, I'm also very glad that they have taken the teachers and put them on a fast track to get vaccinations. I think that's also a really wonderful thing. I can certainly wait. I have no problems with that. But I would like you to take a look at that. And because of that, because you will be getting more money, because it will come down to you at some point. And I know that last year, although difficult, we were a very lucky district insofar as we already had computers in most of the kids' hands. Your teachers had to certainly relearn how to do this, which I think is appalling. I certainly, as a human being, wouldn't have wanted to do it. I'm glad you did. Your creativity, I'm sure, is quite amazing. But I would like you to take a look at that budget again, 2.0 or 2.0% instead of 2.25. I don't think that's a huge cut for you. You've always been able to work well with the 2% over the last several years, and I don't think that will be a problem again. So I ask very specifically that you look at that specific number and drop that. It is a difficulty for a lot of our citizens because they don't have work, unlike the schools, which do have work, which I'm happy for. But we have citizens who have lost their jobs and are having enough problems. We'd like the tax as low as possible. So I do thank you all. I know it's a difficult job, but I don't think this is a difficult cut. So I am asking that you will accomplish that in your next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capalbo.
Mr. Beck, next hand raised is Martha Vita. I just need to know when we unmute her, what town she's from.
Martha, what town are you listed from?
I'm from Hopkinton, Hope Valley.
Okay, you have the floor.
In 2010, before I moved back to Hope Valley, I had a former controller of International Paper go through the prior 5 years published audits. She found significant errors and problems with the audit. It is not a true audit. That is, in a true audit, the auditor would check numbers against checks, invoices, and contracts. She found, for example, that the ending number for year one was not the beginning number of year two. There were no notes to explain it. She found that allocations were not shown as expensed. There was no explanation for where accumulated funds came from that were carried over. We have not had a true audit of Charahoe since the 1950s. That is, we have not had a checkbook audit. Nobody knows exactly. It isn't to say there's anything untoward, but in good business management, there is an audit done when there is a change of top administration. An incoming person knows exactly what they have and what happened before. That is how, business runs. That is how an audit is done. We do not have a true audit. Every year, Charahoe's administration gives numbers to the auditor, and the auditor writes a report. It is not backed up by the auditor's personal review of checks written, which is called a checkbook audit, the invoices, contracts, etc. So we cannot say that we have an annual audit. We have not had a true audit in now, 1950s through today. So I just wanted to make that point because that is not a correct statement from the definition of audit. Thank you.
Mr. Beck, the next person who would like to speak is from Hopkinton, Georgia Yuri.
Georgia, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Georgia, you have the floor.
Okay, I would like to thank everybody for dealing with this pandemic, and that means everybody. It's just been a horrible thing for all of us to deal with, and I think that the schools have handled it probably as good as could be expected under these circumstances. What I'd like to know is, are there any funds in this proposed budget that will be used for planning, drawing architectural sketches, evaluating options, or moving forward on the costly project of constructing a huge factory in the field that the public finds objectionable for our youngest and smallest students? Who could answer that, please?
Linda, do you have any comment on that particular? Or would that be Ned?
Well, I can comment in the sense that the school committee, that'll be on the agenda on the next school committee, which will be next Tuesday on the 9th. So that will be discussed. So Ms. Sherry, if you would like to join those, whatever has been done to date will be shared with the public, and then the public will have a chance to comment on what has been presented at school committee on Tuesday. Then I believe that's March 9th.
I'd like to comment a little bit on why a factory school in the field is a bad idea.
Okay, Ms. Sherry.
Bigger is not better.
Ms. Sherry,
dollars and cents.
Georgia,
Okay.
unfortunately, that's not part of the budget discussion.
Well,
again,
I think
we
it is
adjust-
because we're talking about the budget and we're talking about spending money for this particular issue. And I want to discuss it and I want to have my point heard. And I have 3 minutes, 5 minutes, I believe. So I'd like to speak. But bigger is not better. And Dollars and Cents, which is a nonprofit magazine that publishes economic news and analysis, found smaller schools provide benefits of improvement for teachers and students' attitudes. They have a better improvement for students' self-perception. students' academic achievement equal to or superior to that of students in larger schools. And they also have an increase in parental involvement. It's penny wise and dollar foolish. All right, the economy efficiency alone fails to capture the worth of a school. There are additional costs of consideration. Schools that are smaller, right? They're safer, they have higher teacher retention rates, they have higher parent involvement, and they have greater academic success, and they produce more active citizens. And these are real significant cost advantages for students, parents, teachers, administrators, policymakers, and taxpayers. Society will pay the price when we shortchange our future.
Hey, Georgia, could you
Time
present
is
that?
much more
Could you
valuable.
present that argument at the next meeting? We're talking about line item budgets in the current budget. I think that's
I want
something
to do that. I want to do this now, and I do have 5 minutes.
Excuse me, I have to
I'm
call
sorry.
for a point of order.
Point
I
of
have
order,
to call
Chair.
for a point of order.
Yes.
I have to. We are violating the Open Meetings Act, and I am not violating the Open Meetings Act. We
Okay.
You're not
cannot
violating the
discuss
Open
it. It's
Meetings
not
Act.
on the
We-
I'll
agenda.
It's
make
not
my
on,
point.
I'm
I'll
sorry,
make
Ms.
my
Yuri.
point.
We're going to have
I
to
wanna
cut you
know
off
if
if you continue to discuss the issue that's not part of the budget hearing. Okay, I'm
How much
sorry. but
money is
that's-
in the budget to,
That money is, that
how
discussion
much money
can
is
be
in the
held with the
budget
school
for our
committee.
current schools, our elementary schools?
So maybe it would help Chairwoman Lyle and Mr. Beck, if Mr. Draper just talks about what it's in this budget and how the capital
Correct.
projects were shifted. We can discuss, as
What's in
Dr.
this
Savage
budget?
said, how,
Yes.
what's in this budget.
Yes, what's in this budget alone?
Mr.
Thank you.
Draper?
Yes, so what I can share with the public is the same thing we've shared with the committee. The capital budget amount, and you'll see from the one-page summary, and you can compare that to prior fiscal years. And you can also see in the capital budget page that's posted at our website. The capital budget will not change whether it be newer and fewer or the original budget submission that was for the existing schools. So the amount budgeted for capital investment in our schools is the same regardless of which direction we go in. That number will remain the same for fiscal year 22. So I think there's been some confusion about this process because the belief is the number is tied directly to newer and fewer. Right now, it's only the capital budget as a funding source. It's not which projects are selected will be what the committee does later. Right now, we're selecting the amount that's going to be applied to the capital budget. And that's not going to change whether it's newer or fewer or another course of action. I hope that helps clear up the budget aspect of this.
Thank you, Mr. Draper. Would there be another
My
comment?
point that I would like
I'm
to
sorry,
make, if I
Georgia.
could,
I'm sorry, your
I'd
time
like
is
to
up.
make a point.
Your time is up. I'm sorry. You can wait at the end of the line. Do we have another resident that would like to speak?
Yes, actually, we have two school committee members as well. So Chairwoman Lyle, would you like me to do the school committee members first, or the next person raised hand is Robin Woodmansey?
Yes, I'd like school committee members to speak first, please.
Okay, Mr. Day?
Yes, I think that we need to listen to the questions that are being asked by these people and giving them the answers that they want to hear tonight. What Mrs. Ure was going on about was because she did not get an answer that she was asked. She did not get an answer, and then she get an answer after we upset her. We need to listen to the people in this area, and we need to give them the truth when they ask it for it. Thank you.
Mr. Abbott?
Is
Okay,
that a resident or a member?
member. I think what Georgia, I don't want to speak for her, what she'd like to know is how much money from the current budget or the proposed budget is being used for preliminary architectural and other work on the new school. The consolidated school. That's my understanding. I'd also like to know that. Now, it's how much money is being spent for preliminary work, architectural or otherwise, on the new lodge school.
Mr. Draper?
Yes, so the way the budget is set up now, there is $1,092,000 set aside of reallocated funds that can go towards that effort. Now, whether that money will actually be spent on those specific items you noted, Member Abbott, remains to be seen, but that is the amount that would be reallocated from the existing projects into that. Does that?
Would that be done before or after the voters approve the project?
Well, the voters approving the project wouldn't happen until the next fiscal cycle. It'll be in the school committee's control between now and then.
What about the building committee? Why don't we have a building committee?
The building committee.
I would say we want to be
premature at this
careful that
point.
it's not on the agenda and that March
We
9th.
need to be careful about that, Mr.
Okay.
Abbott, because we might violate the Opens Meeting Act. We are going to discuss this on Tuesday, March 9th. So we really need to be very careful.
But some of these issues traditionally involve the building committee. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abbott.
So Mr. Beck, the next person in line is Robin and David Woodmansey from Richmond.
Mr. and Mrs. Woodmansey, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you very much. This is Robin Woodmansey, Charahoe graduate of 1998, and my father graduated in 1970. I would just like to thank everyone for everything that's gone on this year. I know that the school committee and all administration and teachers have worked incredibly hard. This year has been insane, and it is very hard for many families. So I would like to reiterate what Mrs. Capalbo stated, and in just to the hardships that many residents are in, if we could bring that the fund balance down to 2, I think that would be greatly appreciated, and would show, you know, the understanding of the hard situation we're in, especially with what is going through at the state level. I also just wanted to encourage residents to please get involved in the budget process and in the school committee process. We have a wonderful school system. I am very proud of it, and we all should be. Our school has come leaps and bounds from 1968 to 1998 to where it is now. And we should all be proud to send our children there. We are setting them up for a successful future. And if that is to change, of course, within balance, within reason, but if things start to change within our school system, it's going to really affect us negatively. Children and families have choices. They can go to charter schools. They can go to private schools. And unfortunately, the children that will be most affected by the reduction in a school system is going to be the families that can't afford it and the children who need it the most. And in all honesty, that is a huge concern of mine. Many families can choose where to send their kids, and I'm very proud to send my children to Charahoe. But if that was to change, you know, I can make the choice to send them somewhere else. But there's many families that can't, and those children are benefiting wonderfully from our wonderful education. So I just want to encourage everyone to, of course, within means, but think about that and support that. Our school is not the school of 1968. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Beck, next on the list is Charlestown, Ronald and Maureen Arreglado.
Hello, Ron, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I'd like to commend the school committee, the administration, the faculty and staff for dealing with perhaps once in a generation or even in 100 years of the catastrophic effects of the pandemic virus on our society. Bigger problems in terms of how many years kids have lost relative to in-school learning. The research is abundantly clear that artificial intelligence is simply that. Most effective instruction is direct instruction in the interaction between a competent teacher and motivated students. We have motivated students in Charahoe and we have competent teachers. They need to get back together. The bigger issue is how do you make up for 2 years of lost time? Perhaps we have to look at the calendar in terms of how you have to take more than 180 days to offset some of this. Secondly, I think we have to take a look at the cost that this is going to bear on this particular community. And I talk about the 3 communities. I have little or no confidence that we will see $1.9 trillion trickle down from the United States Senate. Mrs. Capalbo, I agree with you that that money would be forthcoming, would be a wonderful boon to all schools across America. Sadly, I don't think that's going to happen. Secondly, with the budget deficits at the state level, we will have significant problems in terms of state aid. I suspect history has taught us some very painful lessons that we rely on good faith assumptions made by the legislature of Rhode Island, only to have that turned around, and we are scrambling. It is for that reason I would not want to reduce that fund by balance by the suggested 0.2 or 0.5, whatever you said, Mrs. Capalbo. I think that we have to be careful because costs are going to be very, very difficult to ascertain as we go forward. There are many unknowns what's going to happen when schools reopen. So I would be remiss as a resident to say that we should cut this budget. I would rather have that fund balance and potentially give it back to some degree, knowing that we've secured ourselves. I don't suspect that anyone is inclined on the 3 town councils to raise more money if we find ourselves in a shortfall. Finally, I do want to make one comment. I think some of the comments made tonight are clearly violations of the open meeting law. No stranger to having certain people in the 3 town communities sue the school committee time and time again for open meeting violations. I would respectfully ask the moderator to rule out of order anyone that speaks out of the agenda because the potential for open meeting lawsuits is prevalent in Charlestown and Richmond and Hopkinton, and I do not want to see us spending frivolous amounts of money defending frivolous lawsuits. On that issue, I support the budget. I hope that the townspeople through the 3 towns will, and I look forward to the conversation on consolidation because of some of the misinformation or lack of knowledge about a consolidation effort is something that's important to discuss at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Argato.
We have 2 school committee members who are next to speak. Craig Luzon is next from Charlestown.
My information's been answered. Thank you.
And
Thank you,
then
Mr. Luzon.
school committee member David Stahl would be next.
Yeah, I'm backing up to answering the piece of George's question that was specifically budget related. And I think it would be helpful. The school committee spent some time on sort of in this budget, we have the maintenance numbers that Ned talked about. Ned, what I'm going to ask is if you could give a sort of a general summary, because you hinted at it, and I think it would really help clarify what's in the budget that's conditional. Meaning if we as a school committee decide to keep moving forward toward a consolidation, that some would be spent on the architecture or the plans and if we don't, that there are other repairs that have to be made in existing buildings that can't be deferred for too much longer. We spent some time in that conversation in order to put those numbers together for this budget. Could you just generally summarize that, how that was put into this budget as sort of a conditional, as a if we went this way or if we went this way, so that people can understand how that's budgeted and how it's going to work out either way?
Sure. Without getting into the detail of all the numbers that went into it, we know with surety for the next 5 years, based on the campus schools as well as the elementary schools, we're going to have to spend somewhere north of $15 million to maintain those schools properly. That's over the course of the next 5 years. And that's just to take care of things that are immediate. We think that number is probably even closer to 20. When you look at that on a 5-year basis, that's in the $2 million a year range. So we have to justify to RIDE that spending. And the capital budget you see before you at around 2.5 of the total is working towards that obligation. So whether we do that in the format of a newer and fewer, or we do that with our existing infrastructure, we still have to maintain the buildings. So we are going to spend this money, be it on existing buildings or new buildings in some format. Now, to speak to the specifics of how much money would be spent on newer and fewer versus the existing, that's something we'll go into more detail on the 9th. And then I'll have a breakdown, committee member Stahl, that'll be more keyed into the timeline. But to your point about how we get to this point, we know we've got to spend that amount of money each year to maintain what we have. And the newer and fewer is just a different way to package the facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Draper.
Mr. Beck, next hand raised is from Hopkinton, Jonathan and Cheryl Preston.
Mr. and Mrs. Preston, you have the floor.
Hi, this is Cheryl Preston speaking. I just want to say great job, everyone, this past year. I do have students in the school system and we love the district. And I do support the budget as it is with the 2.5% increase. So there are residents out there that do support it as is. I think it's important to have a strong school system. And like that other woman said, we have choices. We choose to stay in this area because there are good schools. So that always needs to be kept in mind. And I just want to say I do support the budget as it is. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Mr. Beck, we have Lauren Cacciola. I just need to know which town she's from.
Sure. Ms. Cacciola, could you just name the residents, the town residents to which you reside? Can you hear me?
Muted. Can you hear me now? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, I'm from Richmond. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say, again, what everyone has said. I fully support the teachers and everyone coming in and being a part of the students' lives that are in the community, and talking about the budget and all the hardships and everything that everyone in these towns have gone through. I just want to state about people throughout audits. Audits are great. However, we are in pandemic times. Audits cost money, so do lawsuits. I think we have to be careful. I support the budget the way it is. It's what's best for the teachers, what's best for the students. It's what's best for the paraprofessionals, which I am one. I'm a behavioral technician. I just wanted to state that, everyone's done a great job under circumstances not our control. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Mr. Beck, school committee member Bill Day would like to speak.
Certainly. Mr. Day.
I have 2 comments. One, I don't support reducing the fund balance because we've had some very professional individuals advise us on what we should have. And I think the towns are maintaining a fund balance a lot greater than what we have, and their budgets are not as high as our budgets. The second thing is that I want to state that I'm opposed to this budget. And the reason I'm opposed to this budget, because of the discussion we've had here tonight so far about the capital expenditures. This list of things was put together by a company out of Providence that really, I feel, did a very terrible job in giving us dollars and figures for items here on this budget. We hired a company to review this. And as a school committee member, I haven't heard one word from anybody about any adjustments they've decided they thought they could make on this capital budget. So until this capital budget is looked at and presented to me with more firm information than what RGB gave us, I will not support this budget. I'm sorry. I don't think I've been on the school committee for a number of years, and this will be the first time I've never supported a budget. But I cannot support a budget that gives me flawed dollars and cents on how it's going to impact the schools in this district. So I want to state that all right up front. I will continue to sit here and participate with this meeting, but I hope I don't have to speak again.
Thank you, Mr. Day.
Mr. Beck, school committee member George Abbott would like to speak.
Mr.
Yes.
Abbott, you have the floor.
Thank you. I would just like to say that I feel that it's totally appropriate for a school committee member or a member of the public, for that matter, to discuss appropriated funds in the proposed budget that would be used for newer or fewer or other projects. And I don't see where that would be in violation of any open meeting law, because it is a budget item. It's that money will be spent to either plan the newer and fewer or the repair of the existing infrastructure. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
School committee chair Linda Lyle, I'd like to just address maybe a couple of things on those two comments.
Yes, please, Superintendent Picard, thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to clarify, so we as well had concerns around certain projects that were labeled under what RGB anticipated for funds around projects at the capital improvement plan. And as a committee, as you all remember, we brought on Colliers just recently to be able to really drill down those numbers. But I want to just restate what Mr. Draper said. So the capital improvement plan for moving forward for next year's budget, and the dollars won't change. The projects can change, the amount can change. So for example, if Iowa Station comes down $5,000 and we can move $5,000 to another project as we tighten up the numbers and we get people to assess specifically how much it's actually going to cost. So I just wanted to clarify that, and I appreciate Mr. Day has been very helpful in that aspect of really ensuring that RGB hears the ask of the school committee that that's our expectation. So thank you, Mr. Day, for that. Mr. Abbott, to your point, I did review with legal counsel, as I always do, the agendas for the meeting, and it was very clear that we needed to stick to the budget allocation. So myself, Mr. Draper, are happy to answer the capital improvement projects, which we stated that are a part of the next year's budget is what we can discuss, but we will have items for the new and fewer conversation at March 9th, on March 23rd. This is going to be an ongoing conversation, so we're happy to address those at those two meetings. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Could I
Superintendent.
respond to that? Could I respond?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that newer and fewer expenditures could potentially be in the budget. So in my opinion, it's totally appropriate to discuss an item that's in the budget.
Unfortunately, they're not specific line items that were mentioned. That's just an entire capital budget expenditure. That will be up to the school committee to decide where that allocation goes. It's not appropriate for this particular hearing.
I would disagree with that, because it's a budget item. It's money that will be appropriated to be spent on an item.
Okay.
Mr. Beck, school committee member Craig Luzon from Charlestown would like to speak.
Mr. Lozan, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I agree with Donna. I think we have deviated too much. I think we have broken the OMA. That's my opinion. And historically speaking, school committee members usually do not speak during this event. we normally sit and listen to what the taxpayers and what they have to tell us. I just hope some of them will remember that and going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Luzon.
Mr. Beck, next up to speak is Hopkinton member Barbara Capalbo.
Okay, Ms. Capalbo, you have a second shot at the apple. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you have to just let me unmute myself. My computer just said you weren't, but I'm sure you are. I have a couple of comments. One, I appreciated Mr. Draper's information about the audit. I just think periodically we need to explain to people that there are different kinds of audits. I believe what the young woman was speaking of was a forensic audit, which we do not do because it's a fortune. You do have annual audits, but I'm sure there are any number of kinds of audits. And perhaps Mr. Draper could explain that at some point to people as they need that information, because this has come up any number of times. I still would recommend that you reduce your fund balance to 2%. We all have to vote on this budget, and it has been voted down in the past. We would like not to. I think this is minor, but I think it's important because we have people, although you have jobs, they do not. And I need you to remember them. Also, I need to make one comment about why the towns have a higher fund balance than the schools. It's because we pay you every month on the first of the month, $1 million every month. And that's every town, over $1 million on the first. And you just send us a bill and we pay you. We don't have that money without taxing our people. And it's up to them to give us money. So if we don't get money, we still owe it. So there is a reason towns carry a higher fund balance than the school. It's because you don't have to earn your money. We have to get it for you from the taxpayers.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Mr. Beck, next up, Sylvia Thompson from Hopkinton.
Ms. Thompson, you get a second shot also. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. She just explained why it is a town, why towns, why anyone in our three towns carries a fund balance, because we would have zero money in the checkbook on July 1st. So we have to have enough fund balance to go for 3 months until the taxes come in September, and that's why. The employee benefit line, I want to go back to that as just one line item to highlight for the school committee. The employee benefit line is 2.8 million higher from the audited 2020 budget, even though there was over $1 million left over from that line. And now that line is increasing by approximately $1 million. So I would ask you to look back to the employee benefits line. Okay, thank you. And other than that, the emergencies that may come up, the fund balance, the amount that you keep, whether it's 2% or whatever the percent is, we've had emergencies, as some of you know. I know Billy Day's certainly familiar with it. He's been around long enough. The Hope Valley School had an emergency, and it was structural, and it had to get done, and it cost, the cost was coming in at just over 1.1 million, and the school committee had a fund balance that they could access. Okay, but and that's why you'd want to use a fund balance in an emergency. However, when the fund balance was used, but in the end of the year, they ended up with more than 2 million. So in the end, the 1.1 million could be absorbed by the budget. So, I'm always been opposed to keeping a fund balance at the school, because you're not waiting for tax money to come in. But the school committee's decided to do it. It is there, and we have to accept it. But I would point out that I would like you to go back to the employee benefits line and look at that and consider the amounts that we've been paying, the surpluses that we have after budget on that line item, please consider decreasing that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Oh, if I'm still on, are you still there?
Yes, we are.
Oh, I just want to say, the last thing I want to say is I like to hear from school committee members. Too often at these hearings, we have lots to say and we ask questions, but we never hear from school committee members. I like it when we hear from them at a hearing. I think it's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Beck, we have from Hopkinton, Scott Hurst.
Scott, you have the floor for one more time. Are you there, Scott?
Yeah, I am Scott Hurst. I just want to get back to the other question. Apparently, people misinterpreted my question. My question wasn't about an audit. My question was about an outside management study, which is not the same thing as an audit. So what my question to the school committee is in regard to this budget specifically is, why should somebody support this budget if it does, since you're talking about having one elementary school, if it doesn't include an outside management study that will look at staffing and other expenses? Thank you. That's
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Mr. Beck, at this time, there are no hands raised.
Okay, then I would certainly entertain a motion to adjourn the budget hearing for Charahoe. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you very much, residents and school committee members, administrators. This hearing is now closed. Thank you.
Good job, Charlie.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. You did an
Good job.
excellent
Thank you,
job.
ladies and gentlemen.
Night, everyone. Charlie.
See you later.
Bye-bye.